Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to episode 23 of season 2 of Mushoku Tensei. Let's go home. I have read the light novel. I've seen the anime. I love the show. I love the light novel, etc., etc. I'm here with Jarkey Bacon and Kai Entertainment, who both haven't read the light novel. They've only seen the anime. Jarkey Bacon, say something.
It's me. Woo. Sorry, guys, you're getting low energy today.
Now, everybody, we got to be very quiet because Jarkey Bacon's a little sleepy. He woke up. He lives in a terrible place of the world. I believe it's England, spelt with an E. So he had to wake up very early for us Australian young men. But it's the evening for us. Can you believe how time zones work? Now, did anybody else notice that EliteAri fucked up twice in his intro? That's pretty funny. First of all, he nearly admitted that he loved the anime, but then he corrected himself because he hates it now. Hint, hint. That's what we're going to be discussing the whole time. And then he introduced us both at once, and then he realized that we were both going to start talking at once. So then he had to single out Jarkey Bacon. Yep. I'd be embarrassed if I was him.
That is exactly what happened, except for the anime bit, because I do like the anime still. Okay.
You ever notice how EliteAri never opens with a funny bit?
Because it pushes off the audience. We want people to stay here and have a clear understanding of what this discussion is, okay? Anyway, so guys, this came out such a long time ago. It was like 6 or 7 days ago, basically. This was the big episode where, I guess, Rudy cheats
Ari made a tweet about
Sylphie,
it, and it seemed awful.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So, I guess I could preface before asking your thoughts, I should say, this is by far, it's not even close, of all the episodes that I've seen discussions for, this is the one where the light novel readers are mad. Okay, they're angry. I've only seen maybe very few positive comments about this. Everyone's like, that was not it. This is terrible. Studio Bind has failed us. I can't believe they cut out the stuff. It's so bad. I've seen commenters angry. I've seen Twitter people angry. I've seen Discord people angry. I've seen YouTubers angry.
What about the great Redditors?
The Redditors they're not angry, they're sad, disappointed, okay? They're like the high of last episode, one of the greatest of the series, and now we've got one of the worst, the worst adaptations, the most cut. So that's the general vibe.
Calling out you on the last one, Ari, for not liking it, I think. Or
that
was
is
he
true.
Saying that you had fewer points? I can't remember.
No, people were not happy with me last. I mean, most people were like okay with it, but there was two comments, they were like, oh, you know what? This was a good episode, and this was not it, Ari. Anyway, we're talking about this episode, so what do you guys think? Now, I should single out someone here, and I don't know. Who should I ask first? All right, Kyle, go ahead. Kyle, what do you think about this episode?
Well, EliteAri, from what I remembered, I thought it was pretty okay. It was a pretty fun time. It was pretty good. Now, I'm forgetting some things. I don't know if I should single out plot events right now. But, Roxy, and then talking, and then there was a campfire, and then Elinalise, and then marriage. Yippee!
All right.
And everybody, hold on. I got to hype up Jarkey Bacon's response because remember, Bacon was so scared that it was going to turn into harem, just like all those other yucky isekai, and then it happened. And so we're all on the edge of our seats for this rant that's coming. It's going to be epic. Okay, go ahead, Bacon.
Yeah, no, I thought it was, it's on the knife edge, as I said before. Has Mushoku Tensei earned my trust to not think this is absolute cringe? It has not. I was like, this is cringe.
So are you waiting to see the outcome of like the finale next episode, or you're like, this is too far. I don't really know. I'm not gonna like this.
I don't know. I mean, it's not like a deal breaker. I'm just like, it's just an eye roller. I guess it's more just like, okay, here we go. The isekai that started it all, or whatever. Supposedly, not really. I know people say that a lot, but it's more just like, oh, here we go.
So I am curious.
I'm going to say the word. I'm going to say it's generic. Oh.
So what? Okay, we're going to go into it right now then. So Bacon, what is? I guess I haven't given my overall take on this episode. By the way, is that I think it was really good. I think it's one of the better episodes of the season.
You're a light novel.
I am a light novel trader. I did also reread the chapters that are covered in volume 12 here, just to see if it actually did miss a lot of stuff. The general take is that it cuts out, just like every other episode this season, it cuts out a lot of the small details, it condenses a lot of scenes, and I think people are quite upset because this is like the emotional kind of climax of Volume 12, which is a very emotional volume, obviously, because Paul dies and all that. And obviously when I'm reading this, I'm like crying, I'm like, oh my god, this is so sad, and when I'm watching the episode, I'm just like, yeah, this is pretty sad.
Oh, it's sad.
Because, Rudy's depressed and Paul's dead and blah, blah, blah. Now people, a lot of stuff's been cut, but I don't know, there's only one major thing that's changed, and we'll get to that when we get to that, but didn't bother me, liked it generally. The montage in the middle, best part, maybe the best part of the season. Anyway, so Bacon.
Oh, montage in the middle, let me remember that one.
Oh, yes,
it's like they're fighting their way back, yeah.
Yeah.
That was vibes.
Yep. So
Mushoku
generic bacon.
Tensei does montages right. There you go.
It does, yes.
That's true.
Yeah, every time it's done one, it's been great. Okay. Bacon, I'm
Go ahead,
challenging you here. Yeah, please. What's generic about this that bothers you think?
Oh, it's just because he's getting a harem. Like that's basically it. And it's like it's an isekai. I can. It's one of those things that's like, okay, I'm sure like it does set it up in a way where it's a bit more believable why Rudy would do this, but it's almost like, and maybe if I read the light novel, yada yada yada, I would have more faith in the author that is doing some. Or I'd have more time to kind of simmer in it and find it interesting. But it's kind of like, oh, at the end of the day, it's the isekai. He's still going to get all the girls. Well, he's got two, maybe one girl with them. But it's kind of like, oh, here we go. I've seen enough of this. Like this done before. It's just kind of like.
So you think just firstly, let's just assume that
it's falling into a convention of the genre which I don't find particularly interesting.
Which is that at the end, so I understand the convention is that the protagonist has multiple partners. That's the convention.
Yes.
So you don't the process of getting there isn't as important as the destination, which is ruining it for you. Where you're like, oh,
yes,
it's one of these generic.
It's also the fact that it's like the male protagonist has all the female. I mean, I do wonder. I mean, as I said, I mean, someone did suggest the spider isekai, but then there's also the other one which I mentioned earlier. I forget its name already. If it's a female protagonist and what happens there, but yeah, it's just kind of. Yeah, I would say that someone like Roxy and Sophie, they have far more personality. And it is interesting how it sets it up. I guess it's just more like, as I said before, it's like, have you earned my trust to pull off the trope and like make me not eye roll? And Mushoku Tensei, the anime has not. But, it could do some interesting things with it. It's just, that's not to say like, okay, Roxy's still an interesting character, Sophie's still an interesting character. But, it's just like, it's kind of like,
I think, because I think generally there's like a few categories, because for the criticism of this generally that I've heard, I want to point out that I don't think I've ever actually seen a harem show. So to me, this is like all new, which is pretty cool. I'm trying to think. Okabe doesn't really have a harem. That doesn't count. But Guts has got a harem, bro. But yeah, I feel like the usual criticisms are like, oh, silly male power fantasy, you're a loser, you get reincarnated into this world and you're the strongest of all time because of reasons, and then all the bitches love you because of reasons, and then it's just like, oh, ultimate male power fantasy, and everybody's mad about that. There's also
well, to be fair,
it's also generally like there's Bacon.
No, Bacon.
Bacon.
You there?
Cut out. Come back to us.
Oh
Bacon.
no, you was about to make a good point.
Hello, I'm back. I'm back.
Bacon's back. Bacon's back. Everybody, shut up.
Yeah. I would say that I wouldn't say that Mushoku Tensei has exactly done that. It's like, oh, he's just got reasons why it's happened. Like it does seem, and that was an interesting thing. I'm interested to hear what you thought. It seems like it's basically Elinalise peer pressuring him into doing this, like guilt tripping him into doing this when he does like her a lot. But yeah. I think it's just something that I'm just like, it's also, okay, I'm going to become woke libtard XD, whatever. It just reminds me of like those dudes who are like, on a podcast, like, I guess it's probably Andrew Tate that probably says something like this, where they're like, men can have as many partners as they want, but if a woman has too many partners, it's promiscuous or whatever. And it's kind of like this assertion that, men should have loads of partners, and it kind of falls into like, I don't know,
misogyny, Bacon.
Maybe I'm not saying that Mushoku Tensei is being misogynist. It just kind of got those. Well, like I guess for me, I just don't. Maybe it's just me. I don't find it believable that someone could have two wives and love them just as much as each other, kind of thing. I don't think it's probably a healthy thing. Maybe Mushoku Tensei built this. Maybe he's the destiny of the. Oh wait, but that's Anyway, I guess for me, this is like, dude, magic. Now that's believable. Two wives though, no, can't be having that.
Okay,
I definitely thought about this while I was watching it, because I'm like, well, Sophie gets to have a boyfriend, right? But obviously, that's not going to happen because EliteAri of Japanese sexism. We hate it. God, if they all had boyfriends, Bacon, it would be fixed, right? We'd all be loving it.
Yeah, that would fix
So
it.
wait,
That would fix
why do you, for you, Bacon specifically, why do you think that would fix it?
because it just would break the trope. If that makes
Oh,
sense.
okay, so it'll.
And it's
Okay.
like it's more that the trope feels like okay, this had a lot of setup, but it still feels like forced that this is.
Yeah, the
reminds
outcome
me of
bothers
Mushoku
you, right?
Tensei. Yeah, it's more.
Mm.
But it's like if there's enough setup to make me, not feel like it's contrived, basically, and it's like, okay, we're still in Isekai Power Fantasy. Here we go.
Because another big criticism is usually like, oh, they like the guy for like no reason, like he's just there and they're all over him, and it's like
to be fair, that's not necessarily true with Roxy. I mean, I think I did say that.
No, I don't
before,
think
she
it's true
does
at
have like
all.
a moment, but like, and they do spend time like setting up like a whole episode. They spent, which is a lot for
They've
this
set up
anime,
4 relationships for him throughout the show, which is
4. Oh yeah, with
the Sarah and Aaron
and the Sarah. Yeah. So
Sarah was my favorite. Bring her back.
Hmm.
No, EliteAri, that's not my favorite, right?
Mm. Yeah, you said you like Eris last time, right?
Yes. I will say, because it didn't really bother me at all, I guess. Well, Bacon, this is one of the things I was spoiled on, I guess. We won't elaborate, EliteAri. Put the gun down. So I guess I feel like it is an odd thing where usually I'm like, spoilers don't matter, bro. But I think I would have loved to have gone on this journey without knowing it, because I feel like I would have probably been on the side of the cheating by the end. Because I would have been like, yeah, Roxy's cool and she's here and fuck Silthy, bro. Not literally. So that's something I kind of regret. But I don't think I have a problem with it at all. I think the make it or break it moment is really how, like, there is a very interesting thing that could happen between how the relationship between Sylphie and Roxy is fleshed out, especially when they live together. But I'm almost certain it's just going to be like they get along and they love each other too.
If they had like some actual really quite mature drama of them trying to work through it, that could
they
be
did with Zenith, if you remember. Zenith was mad.
That's
and the
true.
way she got over it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, and I guess
but we didn't really see them living together.
Sylphie hasn't agreed to it yet, but I mean, yeah, that's yeah.
There's interesting places we can go. But
exactly. I'm not saying Mushoku is it hasn't broken. I think I said earlier.
This is Bacon's last appearance. He's dropping it. Oh my god.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that next episode. Okay, we're getting there.
Oh.
So I guess just to give my perspective on this, relationship stuff in this story, sometimes I find it interesting, sometimes I don't. I think this Roxy stuff is, up to this point, it's somewhat interesting. I don't have a big investment in this whole generic, like, harem / multiple partners thing. I don't really care that much. I'm not like, I know there's a lot of people they're listening right now and they're gonna get very angry and they're gonna like try and defend the series in the comments and stuff. Generally, I think it is very defensible. I think the story gives very believable reasons for why things are happening. I can see why, if you are bothered by the generic kind of other stories have done this before, and you're scared that the story is going to become one of those generic stories, I can understand it. I just don't think that's what's going to happen, but I guess we'll see. I am less I have a very low investment in thinking about the outcome. Like, I don't think, even if you told me, like, I think Kyle early on was worrying about how, like, oh, I know exactly how this story is gonna go. At the end, Rudy's gonna, he's gonna. I don't even. Do you remember what you thought? What's gonna happen at the end, Kyle? Just give me some prediction.
Well, of course, Rudy's gonna go back to the real world and fix his actual life and get rid of all this fake shit.
Yeah. So yeah, even if, let's assume that's the case, and that's the case, and you're like, oh, this is the most boring thing ever, I'm not interested. I still think the journey is way more important than that. And the path to get there is more interesting, and I don't know. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes, I guess.
Yeah, no, I would say, like, the biggest issue with Mushoku Tensei is the fact that there is the isekai genre, and I guess, other
True.
anime which
True.
sets precedent for it. So it makes me more cynical about it than if I just watch this, I guess, the first thing. Maybe if this was my first anime, like, I'd be like, oh, wow, this is really, like, this is, like, but, yeah, it's like, it's not necessarily, like, it's just, like, yeah, I for example, everybody has certain icks when it comes to certain tropes. Some tropes we just absolutely love for no reason, and it works every single time. Other times it doesn't. And this is one of those ones where I'm totally willing to see that it's going to, if it gets it, like where it does interesting, and I'll say it when I do find it's interesting and stuff,
Well, okay, I guess what I find more interesting about this discussion was me trying. I'm trying to understand why people don't like this specifically, and I guess the reason you gave that you think that it's unrealistic that someone could love multiple people, I find that interesting, and I could buy someone thinking that is the reason they don't like this. The thing I don't particularly buy, or I'm not understanding, and maybe you can clarify this, is the what do you call it, the cynicism, or like the seeing this trope happening and purely because it is a trope you don't like it, and not having a strong reason for why you don't like the trope. You just don't like it because you've identified it as a trope you don't like. I'm just wondering, like, why don't you like the trope, I guess? And would it just come down to you thinking that it's like unrealistic, or like what bothers you about the trope of having multiple partners, I guess, for a man?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess for me, it's like, to me, it's too obviously like appealing on what, and to be fair, this is probably just me. It's like on the similar level of fan service where it's just like I roll, and I find this is like appealing on a base urge thing where it's like, in the power fantasy where it's just so like oh my gosh, I can't. I wish I had my own harem, like on the home power fantasy.
But is
like,
that,
and it, like for me,
yeah, go ahead.
And that's not necessarily what Mushoku Tensei is doing. That's just how it's often applied. And I think there's baggage that personally, with me seeing this trope, comes over on, right? And that's with a lot of my issues with Mushoku Tensei. It's like, for me, it doesn't do quite enough to like. That's why I started this off as like, has Mushoku Tensei earned my belief in it for me to not like find this cringe or find it interesting, basically. And I said it was cringe, but it's more like I'm willing to see where it goes, because I definitely do think the series has given me reason to like pay attention more. And it's not like this isn't like a deal breaker. It's just something I don't like, and it spent like lots of the episode on. I was like, that's not to say there's not interesting scenes and stuff, like the whole Elinalise scene, and like then Roxy. Yeah, I mean, we'll go through it, but like Roxy's whole thing where it's like, oh, she knew about it. But I was like, does she know about it? And then retroactively, she did know about it, and so on and so forth, right? So it's just it's just one of those things.
I think it's
where,
kind of it's kind of similar to like, oh, the bad guy kicks the dog. It's like a cheap way to get somebody invested, or like a rape scene fake out, or it's just like, well, here he goes. He's super strong. He's got all the bitches,
Yeah, and so I think to say where like, okay, so where the Mushoku Tensei fan, like, I think I would probably be more likely to be like, oh, this really worked, is like, if I was really, really like, oh my word, I feel really bad for Roxy. I really want her to, actually, she's an awesome character. I want the best for her, right? And I genuinely believe that this is the best outcome for her. Kind of like an Elinalise. I'm like, oh, yeah, nice. Yeah, okay, cool. How are we going to resolve this issue? And this would be like a satisfying way to resolve the issue, where it's like, like Roxy, someone who's always been alone, someone who's always, never had other people, has finally found someone that, she really wants to be a partner with, and she's given an opportunity, and that maybe she'd be like, oh, that's awesome for Roxy. But for me, it's almost like, oh, I'm just looking through this from the cynical lens of like, oh, it's an isekai, and now the hammer started. Oh, that makes sense.
I kind of think an issue is that the Roxy Rudy actual relationship isn't too fleshed out, and I think that's something I'd probably want to talk about later. Would it change you at all, Bacon, if like Eris had showed up at the house and then wanted to get married too or something? Do you think that would change it? Is it got anything to do with Roxy specifically?
Yeah, I mean, that is a good point. I don't know if I'm like invested in any of their relationships like that much, to be perfectly honest. But that is a great point where like, if I was like more invested in their relationships and I found it like, oh, this is really interesting, like, And it's like, oh, okay, it's kind of like because they've gone away and they've kind of found different lives from each other. You're like, oh, that kind of breaks my heart to see them different. Can we figure something out somehow?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That-
if you're
that
in
could be cool.
Elinalise's
Yeah.
position, like you were saying, like you felt bad for the person, or you're like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
it's I wish I could see things go another way. I understand.
Yeah.
All right, interesting.
Well, Carl,
think-
thank you for being my therapist and figuring out.
Yeah, I'm just so
Whether-
smart.
whether-
I've
where
got
the
like
fault
4
lines
notes
are.
written down, bro.
Yeah.
All right,
The
go ahead, Kyle. Yep.
Oh, me. That's me. Which one do I want to go to first? Oh my god. Part of me, because again, I've never seen a harem show, I don't think. I'm sort of the trope I'm sort of sick of is like every character has one partner in every story. So I'm
That's fair.
part of me is I've kind of been happy that he had the relationship with Eris, then he had a fake out on Sarah, and then he had one with Sylphie, and then there's kind of one here with Roxy. So that kind of makes me happy, and obviously I'm romance pilled. I love all the love lines, what do you call those? The plot lines, the love lines. Best part of every show, Bacon always waves his finger in my face and says, "How about you just watch romance shows, stupid?" And I say, "Nuh-uh, Bacon, nuh-uh."
That would make too much sense.
So that's part of the I'd say that's kind of a funny thing of like, for one person it fulfills the trope, and for one person it breaks the trope, and it just really like trope understanding and what you'll find cringy is just kind of depends on your what do you call it, backstory with stories, your
Experience,
backlog.
bro. It's your
Yeah,
lived experience.
Everyone's got personal experience.
Bro, it's subjective.
True.
It is trope based.
I should also say I don't think
there
I've
was a-
ever seen a harem show either, or harem anything. This is
Well, I used to
So,
watch that
so-
slime show. Isn't that a harem show or something?
I've not to
I
the
don't know
point that
what
I've
they-
gotten up to, but maybe later. I don't know.
I have no
It's-
idea. I just
no,
assumed this
slime
was bad.
is not a harem show. I've not really watched that many either, but I've
seen
seen enough
ReZero,
like
I think.
isekai. Yeah,
That's
I've,
not a
I've
harem.
watched- I don't think it's got a harem in it, but yeah, it's enough for me to
Wait, what harem shows have you seen, Bacon?
That's a great question. I'm not sure if Shield Hero was. Don't think it was. I watched a bit of what's it called? Shadow. Oh, dude, I've already forgotten it. It's the isekai that makes fun of isekais. I've heard. What's it
Konosuba?
called? No. I've watched Konosuba though. That's not what it's called. That had harem either. What's it called?
I know there's
Oh,
like the girls in a dungeon one that was like the big. I think that's an isekai, right? And that was like the
Yeah.
big example of it back in like 2014 when it first dropped.
I think. I've-
EliteAri pounce. He hasn't even seen any. Call him a loser and stuff.
Yeah, you're calling me a loser, man.
No, it's
Um,
okay. I'm sure Bacon
What's
sees
it
something.
called?
If this was me right now, EliteAri would be freaking out.
No, because Bacon has given his nice reasons for why he doesn't like things. Okay.
He's just a
Um,
respectable young man. I understand.
Yeah. Oh, anyway, wait. You're in the middle of a point, right, Kyle, or something? Or was that? Did I cut you off?
Oh
right?
yeah. Well, I got like 4 points, bro. We were talking about criticisms for a little bit, so this is kind of backtracking. But EliteAri was like, "So what? The criticism is just that you've seen it." And EliteAri, I think a lot of basic criticism is just people observing something and then pointing it out, and then when you see it again,
Well,
you're like,
that's-
"Haha, lame fucking thing."
Yeah, so that's not my criticism.
Um,
If I was to kind of reframe what you just said, I would say you think you've seen this before, but you're taking the very high level things and being like, "Oh, I've seen it before." It'd be like a racist being like, "Oh, you're an Asian. I've seen
think-
an Asian before. Oh my god, I'm gonna apply all these stereotypes to you because you're Asian or something." I'd say a similar.
But
thing
I don't
here,
even. I
but-
think it's a completely different part
I
of
was
it.
not
is like,
expecting
oh,
Ari
the
to call me
story-
racist today.
No, it's like a
Get him,
similar
Bacon,
kind of
get
thing.
him.
Or I could say like, "Oh, I have a I've seen all yellow cars before or something," or like I've seen the rain before or something, and it's like, okay, you've seen it before, but it can be different every time. Like you, and also I can understand
Nobody
someone
said it was
always.
logical, EliteAri. I don't know why.
No,
you
no,
said that,
I
you
understand.
know?
I'm just trying to say that you were saying what I was saying is incorrect. I'm not saying that, oh, people are saying they've seen it before. I'm saying people are saying that they've seen it before when in fact they haven't. Like they've just, it's the whole thing about like grouping, and like when you come up with a particular category, it doesn't mean that the category is important. Like when you say that something is a harem, you disliking the word, like you disliking a harem doesn't mean that you dislike the same thing that someone else says when they dislike a harem. If that makes sense. It's like harem is like a collection of things, and it
True.
doesn't mean that because you dislike a
of
harem, you
things,
dislike all the
EliteAri?
things in the thing.
That's
I
what
don't
you
know what
refer to
the,
women as.
Oh yes, indeed, yes. But yeah, I don't know what to say. It's like sometimes it's annoying when people are like, I don't like tropes.
Ganon in Berserk had a harem of boys. I've seen a harem show.
Yes, well done. Anyway, go back to your point, Kyle. Sorry.
Now, leader, you missed the point. What I'm saying is this is actually the people thinking that like it's like an arrogance thing. It's like, well, I'm smarter than this show because I've noticed that usually these things happen and therefore this show is bad and I'm good. It's just like an older type of criticism that's funny. Now, EliteAri will discover these criticisms in YouTube videos sometimes and be mind-blown that they exist. And it's mind-blowing to me that he hasn't been around them for 10 years. So I think that was this is like sort of another example of that, and that's kind of cute, you know. EliteAri, keep being you.
Okay, sure thing.
Loser. Then I had it written down here. Identification is criticism. Oh my god, I'm so smart. What a turn of phrase. Now I have one about the actual scene itself, but I think I should probably save that for later.
All right.
Though it is important here, because I think it.
Say it now. Go ahead.
The Roxy scene is easily the worst of all the sex scenes. It's pretty lame, and I was pretty disappointed in it. And I think that harkens into the episode not being as enjoyable as it is. I will say, during it, the fuck, maybe we should save this for later. I'll say that how it's built in the episode, I was very happy.
Okay, we'll get to that.
How it seemed rather unmessy.
Okay.
Obviously, Sylphie has something to say about that, but we'll see. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. And then I just have a monogamy pilled written down, so who knows what I meant by that. So let's delete that. You know, monogamy's bad, EliteAri, and Mushoku Tensei is just so brave for having a non-monogamous relationship. Don't listen to Bacon.
True. Yeah. Okay.
Except
so...
it's not. This is going to be from a man, because this is from Andrew Tate supporting fucking show, EliteAri, and you're a misogynist.
Absolutely. Okay, I have a few overall
what if we
things.
get back and Sylphie's already got 2 new boyfriends?
That would be crazy.
Oh, that would be sick.
Number one, guys. Okay, these are just overall thoughts I had. Okay, and I'm getting them out before we do the recap. I like the quietness. Okay, at the beginning, the whole scene with Roxy and Zenith and all that before they montage basically to travel the desert. There's no music and it's pretty cool. It's like, oh my god, we're getting serious and we're just looking at the visuals and dialogue. We love it. There's also I haven't really thought about this in much depth, but this episode feels very similar to the finale of season 1, where you have Rudy is like depressed. He has sex with Eris, and then he's depressed again, and he has to like get up and travel anyway. And it's like, oh, there's these high level parallels between that and this episode. I don't know what the significance is. I'm sure you could come up with something interesting, but I haven't. But just thought I'd point that out.
Well, last time you had to spend a whole season to get out of being depressed, but apparently you just gotta have sex to not be depressed anymore.
Yeah, perhaps something like that. I haven't said my obligatory comment on the production. I think this is, one of the best directed episodes of the season. There are a lot of really cool shots, and I have a list of them. Okay, so number one, this is also, I've said this many times because I watched that one video back in the day about Mushoku Tensei being grainy, and whenever they show Rudy's past life, it's never grainy because it shows that that's like what he really identifies as reality. And when he's in this isekai world, it's always grainy because it's like, oh my god, that's actually not real, or he doesn't see it as real. And every time they show a scene from the past life, and this time, obviously, we're in our 3rd series director, so I'm like, they're going to mess it up. One of the directors is going to realize this isn't actually a thing that they're caring about making this distinction, and they're just going to add the grain to this backstory stuff. And nope, they didn't do it again. They left out the grain. I was like, wow, I can't believe it. Look at this. A coherent vision across all of the seasons of Mushoku Tensei. We love it.
Because
what
every
else?
episode looking back.
So why has there been so many directors on it?
Well, there was a season 1 director for the whole season. And then last cour of season 2, there was a season director, and then it changed for this cour as well. I have no idea why. I actually have no idea why. I would assume, what could I even assume? I don't know, Bacon, what could I come up with? What's like a reason? Production issues, maybe they, I don't know, maybe they have a harem and there was like arguments in their harem or something.
They all want to leave.
Yeah, maybe that,
they don't
true.
Want it on their TV.
Maybe he died, the last one, I don't know, it could literally be anything.
He got isekai'd, I think. Got hit by a truck.
What else? Let's see. I know we talked about the complaints. Oh, there's 3 changes, by the way. I said, what are the changes? Because people obviously are complaining about a bunch of changes. Number 1.
Oh my god, EliteAri, hold on.
Yes.
Let me explain the changes, EliteAri. So first of all, the Crunchyroll comments told me that in the light novel, actually Elinalise is the one that talked Roxy into sleeping with Rudy in the first place.
That's not true. So what we get is at least in my opinion, that's not true. I could see why people could argue that. In the light novel, we skip a scene, which is before we get the scene with Roxy and Rudy, and it's a scene at the bar, and it's like all the group basically besides Rudy, so it's like Elinalise, Talhand, Roxy, Geese, like they're all at the bar talking about Rudy being down, and he's like not leaving his room, and they're like worried about him. They're like, he's never gonna get up. He's like he's not eating, so he's like gonna die of like starvation. And they're talking about we need to do something. And then Talahand, or either Talahand or not Roxy, or Geese or someone is suggesting like, Elinalise, you've done this before. Oh, Jesus Christ. Well, welcome back, Kyle.
Don't worry, I knocked the microphone over and I was freaking out, and then I was like, oh my god, I can't stop because EliteAri is speaking, and what if I miss what he's saying? But now I'm back.
So in this scene, they bring up that, oh my god, Elinalise, you have like a lot of experience with men, and you've brought people back from depression before by sleeping with them, and you've always said that, oh my god, she has some way of phrasing it where she's like, I can always get to the core of a man's heart or something, and basically because of all her experience, she knows how to manipulate men into coming back from sadness or whatever. And she basically says that she can't do it.
Kind of like, hold up.
Yeah.
Kind of like in season 2 when our best man or whatever his face took Rudy to the prostitute.
Oh yes.
Brothel, yes.
Yeah, similar to that, I guess. Sure, but
I pay attention.
Yes, well done.
Thank you.
So from there, Elinalise is like, I can't do this for multiple reasons. First, like Paul's kid, but also because firstly she'd be. It's her grandchild that she would be making Rudy cheat on, and it's like this would be a bit weird. I don't know how Sylphie would feel about this. I don't feel right about this, and Elinalise is basically, this is out of the question. I'm not doing it. And then I guess Roxy is kind of the only other person in that situation who could kind of do anything. And I don't think that there's any particular like line where it's like Elinalise is trying to convince her, or like Talhand anyone is really trying to convince her. And now someone could try and point out a line if you're on the comments, but I don't recall anything. To me, the more the vibe of the scene felt like they're all thinking, Elinalise, you need to do something, and Elinalise is like, no. And then Roxy herself kind of takes it into her hands, and it's like, well, I mean, someone has to do something. I need to try at least, because Talhand can't do it, Geese can't do it, Lilia is just busy with Zenith. Like no one is here for Rudy, and I need to be the one to do it. That's my interpretation of the build up in the light novel, and I think they skipped it, which is fine. They do reference it later on in the anime episode, which I think makes it better. I think it's actually better that we don't see that scene initially in the setup, and all we get is like Rudy's perspective of having Roxy come in, and then we get the explanation later. I think it makes it more interesting to watch. But
do you think this is all just convoluted to make Roxy not be some people not think she's a bad guy?
Well, certainly there's going to be some writing here to justify the story elements of the audience, right? Because this is obviously controversial stuff, and you want to make sure that, this is going to be digestible.
Part of EliteAri, because that's the dumbest thing anybody's ever said.
What, the light novel version? Like where you've got them talking about...
Yes, the whole setup of this. Yeah. He's so depressed, somebody has to fuck him to get him out of it.
Yeah, it's just... Yeah. I mean... Yeah,
but I don't know. I kind of like it. It's like, oh, well, see, Roxy had to do it, guys. She didn't... Because we later find out she didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, what did you say, Bacon?
Is sex the ultimate antidepressant? If we just have sex, would that just fix?
Well, there is a distinction.
No,
wait. There is a distinction that Rudius is still depressed. Like all this did was to get him out of his room. That's the extent of it. Like I don't think that this solved anything. I don't think long term he's like, oh, thank God I slept with Roxy. I'm okay now. I think he still has a lot to deal with, and I don't think he's done yet. It'll be similar to this is a terrible comparison. It would be similar to when I think Alphonse or whatever, Roxy, Eris's butler came in the room and he's like, Rudy, we need this room. You need to get out of here. There's other people. If you're going to be depressed here and everything, just leave, okay? Because we need this room and there's people struggling more than you. And it's like, oh, what? So a conversation and like fix your depression? That's it? Like, that's the solution to depression? It's like, no, it's not. After that, he was depressed. He almost killed himself. He had a whole thing with Sarah. Like, I don't know. You need steps to like kind of, like getting over depression is obviously a process, right? And I think this is one of those steps.
I mean, all of the depression of Mushoku Tensei is lame anyway, so.
Well, cool, no, I think that's the most... Depression is one of the more interesting elements of Mushoku Tensei, I think, to me, and to most people reading, I think.
Guy dies, so I'm sad.
Yeah, so I would say is that I would say it's a incorrect framing to say that, oh my god, sex fixes depression, or Roxy has fixed Rudy's depression by having sex with him. I think what it did is shift his mindset in a very big way, because it was a very big change in his life of something that he hadn't really considered before. That can, change his mindset a little bit to get him to at least consider, changing his environment a little bit.
It snapped him out of the glaze he was in EliteAri.
Okay, in my head, that's not even... Maybe in the light novel they go through more things, but...
They do, don't worry.
In my head, this is like not even like the first thing I would do. It's like, hey man, look, I know it sucks, but like, you know, you can be super personal, but just remind him he's got a family at home. He's got other people that like need him, all this stuff, right? Like, there's other ways to encourage someone to get out, right? And this is, this was like, do I buy it? Do I not? I think in the anime, I don't think it's that bad, right? But in the anime, it was quite cool where like it does do a lot of retroactive stuff where you're trying to guess like, what was that scene with Roxy and Elinalise in the hallway? Like, what was she thinking? And then it's kind of revealed later, which is cool.
Yeah. So then, what you're hinting at a little bit unintentionally, maybe, is what a lot of people are saying, which is that they feel that anime onlys watching this would firstly struggle with the feeling emotional here at all, like feeling like this is a big deal for, actually feeling the emotion of Rudy feeling depressed and everything, and this is like, there is no hope for him unless like someone does something very drastic here. Because obviously, we see him, I guess visually, something we get to indicate that this is the case is that his cheeks are like sunken in, and he's obviously not eating, and we're meant to imply that he's been here quite a long time. He hasn't left his room. He's not listening to anyone. Nothing is working, basically. Now, you could say that in the anime, this isn't portrayed at all because, last episode, we ended it with him lying down on his bed. And now we open it again with him just sitting on his bed. And it's like, oh, no time has passed. But we're meant to imply that a lot of time has passed. In the light novel, this is very clear because we get either a whole chapter or we get many, many pages of him talking about his internal perspective of Paul and everything that's happened. And whereas in the anime, it happens very quickly. That's something that people were bothered by. I guess to me, it just doesn't bother me, but like I felt it still a little bit. But I can't tell because I also have the context, so it's interesting to see your perspective on it.
Yeah, I think that it is interesting. Like, there is like this almost narrative, what is it? Like, thing you're scared of. What is it? Like, a rock above the head of the narrative that could fall at any moment, and you're just like, oh no. We don't want Rudy going back to how he was in his old life, right? This is what we categorically do not want. This is part of his journey, and we want him to, succeed and do better. And he has these tendencies to, like, if you can buy into that he was like that in his old life, it's like to me, like, the fact that would happen, I'd be like, okay, that's a bit extreme. But then if I think back, I'd be like, okay, this is like a core part of his character that's established from the beginning. Yeah, and so we don't want that. And I think it almost makes a bit of sense because it's almost quite nice because I guess Roxy was the one that initially helped him go outside his gate, right? And now she's helping him outside of depression as well, which is cool.
Yep, lovely. All right, should we begin the recap?
I got three funny things that I saw about this, EliteAri. I saw a lot of Crunchyroll comments saying that Rudy is totally fine and that it's totally okay to cheat on Sylphie because Elinalise is her grandmother and she said it was okay. So that was pretty hilarious. I swear I saw 20 arguments, many comments with about 400 likes applying this because Rudius can do no wrong, EliteAri. Now,
that's pretty
then funny. I got a lot of funny Twitter comments about how Roxy is now a predator too because she took advantage of him in his depressed states to have sex with him, and I thought that was very base.
Oh, that's hilarious.
That is what I was thinking because I'm watching this.
That's kind of true. Yeah, he is in this.
True.
Yeah,
but
she
does
say that.
To help him, you see.
Well, she points out I'm the worst of the worst.
Yeah. Now I'll point out. Wait, what was I going to point out now?
I have no idea, Kyle.
Yeah, guys. I said EliteAri and Jarkey. Oh, well, I'm reminding you about my situation when I was watching it.
Okay.
So I was watching this, and obviously, Bacon, I knew it was happening, so I'm looking at this thing, and then they start doing this fucking and I'm like, oh no, it's gonna be them she's helping him out of depression, and it removes all the fun and interesting emotions from it, like all the other sex scenes. And true, the scene sucked. It was lame. It was okay. So that was lame. So I was like, oh no, this is how they're going to do it. So I was a little bit disappointed then. But then also, we finally got a woman that's 90 years old or whatever, one that isn't 17 or that she didn't know when he was fucking 12 or whatever the fuck and he didn't groom. And they lollied her up immensely, Jarkey Bacon, in this sex scene. She's wearing this very skinny clothes. She looks like she's about 5 because Mushoku Tensei can't help itself, Bacon.
Yeah, I mean... I'm not going to say I didn't think that. But then I was like, okay, Mushoku Tensei, you do you.
Because she looks so cool in her normal outfit. She looks like a woman, We can all get behind that. She's 90 years old, apparently, so it's already the meme lolly thing about how she's way older than she actually looks. And then she's in her little nightgown looking like a 3-year-old.
I think it's tough because at the end of the day, there are. I mean, in anime, because there's so much abstract, that's kind of hard to be like.
It is
that
like
much
part of the
different
point too.
sometimes.
She's always like, nobody would love me. I'm such a little girl. I got the little body. Nobody likes me. But little does she
Yeah,
know, we got a pedophile on our hands.
and you know that. I think the thing is, you know, like there are women in real life who are like that, right?
Have little
Petite.
bodies, true, but their
Yes, and
faces
that's
might look a little older or something, you know.
that's true. Um, her eyes, yeah, it's like the eye proportion with her faces. But hey, you know,
That's anime,
yeah,
you know.
Mhm.
it's another anime thing, and I wouldn't say that. It's not something I was like, But then I was also like, how Mushoku Tensei, I'll
I
give
mean,
you
it's
this
the
one.
least worst.
And maybe this was, you know, maybe this is what it was, Ari. I got worn down by this, and so
Yep.
then I became more cynical later on. Maybe I
Perhaps.
think this is a whole episode thing. Maybe
Now, there is also one more
didn't-
thing to say, which is that I don't know if I'm pretty sure Roxy is like depicted accurately in this anime, but people are always mad because Rudy looks way too young. Like in the light novel, apparently he looks like way older. He's described as being like Paul's height. And people are mad because he kind of looks like he was still the same boy as he was at the beginning of this season. I don't know. I think never took me out of it when I was watching this. I'm like, oh
He
yeah,
looked a
Rudy
lot
kind
bigger
of
than her in this scene.
yeah, he looks old enough to me. Like he looks like he's grown a lot since the beginning of this season. Like, but people, yeah.
I mean,
there
it
are a
is
lot of
also
people who-
weird that this is like the 4-year-old she looked after, and she doesn't know that he's actually 70. So that's
Yeah.
another Roxy's a predator thingy. But also she didn't realize it was him when she fell in love with him when he saved her in the one
Yeah.
thing. So EliteAri, you should bring that up to attack me.
It's true.
Don't worry, I'll do your job for you. But also their relationship is still them saying master and student, and they have no personable stuff around each other unless they're like literally leaning on each other, which is cute.
Mm.
You know, least favorite of the 3 EliteAri, of the 4 even maybe.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I guess we'll.
And
we'll
it
see how
wasn't
this
that way
story
in
goes.
last episode. My goodness.
Yep. I can't even say anything. I can't say nothing. I did a tier list once of the characters. I mentioned the characters I like, and people were like, "What?" So I guess we'll see. All right.
Paul and Norn, you're a loser, leader.
You know, Norn is the best character in this story, obviously. You know, they did also. We'll see if there's a
I
Norn
still
scene
haven't
next
watched that
episode
video,
or not.
EliteAri.
is it because she also
Bacon, did you
joined
know we're allowed to
Ryu's
watch
harem?
EliteAri's
That'd be
video
crazy.
now? Wait, what did Bacon say? I missed it.
Oh, you know that Norn's going to
If
join the
Norn
harem.
joins
Apparently,
the harem,
Oh, she will, yes.
the fifth wife.
that would not be good.
Hey, dude, I would not put outside the chance of with the anime.
We can put Lilia in it before we put Norn in it.
Yeah,
okay?
I would buy that more. Okay, are we doing the
Yeah, that's a
recap?
good point. Does he have, because he's isekai, does he have the same genetic? Would it be incest?
Well, he has the same He surely has the same
Yeah,
genetics.
so he
right?
does have sure he has the same genetic material. Yeah, so it would be.
Yeah.
Oh, biology.
I know, they
is
can just
ruining it
magic
once
the
again.
baby, you know, eugenics and stuff.
Yes,
not
that's
retarded.
true.
Mm-hmm.
That's so
Incest
true.
is moral in the world of Mushoku Tensei.
I don't.
And in real life.
I don't think that's the case. But
Sure.
I don't know. Maybe there's some counter argument out there. I don't know. Anyway, so recap, guys. Opening scene. Rudy thinks back to his parents in his original life. Were they worried about him back then? Did they care about him? He'll never know. He didn't go to their funeral or gather their ashes. He didn't care that they died. He's sad how little he loved them back then. So I guess all this beginning stuff, which when I say all of this, I mean like the beginning, like minute or something, is Rudy contemplating Paul's death basically, and thinking about how he feels like he, in his previous life, he completely failed his parents. They cared about him. They cared for him so much, and they gave him basically the life he had. And he didn't care about them when he died, and he basically abused their love. And now once again, he thinks that he's failed Paul here, where he didn't really appreciate Paul while he was still alive. And he feels like he hasn't grown at all basically in this moment. He's like, man, I thought I'd grown so much. I was living a life. I'd gotten out of my house, but here I am facing a similar situation where I feel like I didn't really love Paul until this moment. It's kind of cool. I like this. Obviously,
And then he says, like, Paul was my daddy or something, right?
True. He says, I quote here, I thought I wasn't Paul's kid, but he was my father. I'm like, oh.
Did you buy it, Bacon? Because I certainly didn't.
I don't know if I think I bought it.
Excellent. Well done.
Shut up, Bacon. You're idiot.
We do have a quote. I guess I was going to say it later. I'm going to read out a light novel quote here. Okay. Let's see if I can find it. Cause this is my favorite quote from, I think, well, not my favorite from volume 12, but one of my favorites from volume 12. Let's see if I can find it, guys. It's here somewhere. Thank you.
Paul sucks. Come on, EliteAri. Control F. Let's get this show on the road.
Yeah, I'm searching. I've only got like 200 pages of notes here. It takes a while. Okay, here we go. So, Paul had 2 real children, not fakes like me. Actual, honest-to-God, real children.
True.
2 sweet, genuine daughters, Norn and Aisha. If he were going to shield anyone, it should have been them. Plus, he had 2 wives, right? He'd spent years desperately searching for one of them, Zenith. The other, Lilia, had been there to support him until then. 2 wives and 2 daughters. 4 people in total. What the hell are you doing leaving them behind, huh, Paul? I thought angrily. Weren't they important to you? But maybe I was just as important to him, too. 2 wives, 2 daughters, and 1 son. Maybe they were all equally important to him. I'd never seen him as a father, but he'd thought of me as one of the most important people in his life. I was like, oh, it's cute. So that's one of my favorite quotes from Volume 12.
Is it because it was Paul? Didn't Paul make a? I know he probably doesn't actually think this, but didn't he say, "Oh, I've got a son"? It's like, he's a big fan of progenitors.
Wait, what?
Progenitors? Patriarchal progenitor.
He wants a son.
He wants a boy.
But his first child was a boy.
Exactly, and that's why he values him above all the others for his.
Okay, I don't know if there's anything to hint at that, but yep, interesting.
Well, was it said like maybe as a joke earlier on with Paul? I feel like I remember that, but I don't.
It's certainly
remember
possible.
The beginning of season 1, like when he's like, "Yes, I have a son."
He wanted his little son to be a swords guy, but he turned out to be a magic guy, and he wasn't thrilled about that.
That is true.
Oh, I remember everything. I'm so smart.
Yes, you are.
All right. Anyway, cool. I like the fact that Rudy doesn't see himself as a son. He sees his sisters and is like, these are real children. I'm not the real one. Why did Paul care about me? I'm so sad. So we like that. All right. Then
That's cool. I'll just say that Ari, when you read it, I'm not sure if it's with your reading or, but I thought the prose are a bit. I mean, it's probably because I've not read anything translated from Japanese. But the prose of the light novel do seem a bit funky. But
you can have a look and read it yourself and decide. I don't know. I like the prose.
Yeah.
Actually, in fairness, I'm not sure about the first light novel. I do remember the prose being a little strange in that, but maybe it's just because I read it so long ago. But I actually do like the prose. The way things are phrased, I find really interesting. Anyway, so next scene. Roxy checks in on Rudy and asks if he would like to step out with her for a change of mood. I don't know, we've talked about a lot of this. So Rudy's lost a lot of weight. He seemingly hasn't left his room since he arrived. He hasn't changed or cleaned his bloody clothing since he arrived. I guess that's kind of interesting. This whole time he's had that bloody sleeve. So yeah.
The blood's on his not hand.
It is. And the not hand has a bunch of veins and stuff, and it's like gross and interesting looking. Yeah.
Cut that thing off.
Yeah, true. Roxy sits next to him on the bed and talks about how the times in Buena Village with Paul and Zenith might have been the happiest times in her life.
Pause, EliteAri.
Yes.
Pause, EliteAri. I had a funny interaction with myself in my head. I was going to say, oh my god, he's going to get the Luke Skywalker thing, EliteAri. He's going to get a metal hand. Well, I was probably going to ask Bacon, because, we're allowed to speculate on these things. But then I was going to giggle to myself. But then we all found out that this author's the biggest Berserk fan under the sun. So he's going to get a Guts hand. It's a genius thing. It's not a shitty Star Wars reference. It's a reference to something cool and good. Or is he just going to magic it back, Bacon? He's getting some sort of hand.
Yeah, who knows what's happening with him?
I do. All right, so
prick.
She tries to give Rudy advice that when going adventuring, people close to you sometimes die, and she's gone through it too. And this gets Rudy angry because both of Roxy's parents are still alive.
Oh my god, this is my Bacon moment. This is my least favorite trope in everything ever, where the character freaks out.
You don't understand.
You don't understand me.
Yeah.
Nobody else has ever died.
True.
Has anything like this ever happened in real life?
Yep.
No.
So you think that when you're angry about something and someone's like, don't be angry, this happens and I've been through similar things, do you think that takes away your anger?
Well, I would never be arrogant enough to be like, yeah, nobody's ever died in your life, bitch. Shut your mouth. Your parents are still alive.
Well, it's more about the...
It's in every show ever to exist. Maybe I'm just the only true human and you're all fake. How about that?
True. Okay, now I have a quote here. I thought I'd started over. I thought I was getting things right, but I was ignoring part of what really mattered. I turned a blind eye to the clashes with my family and made some of the same mistakes I can't take back. So obviously Rudy, he didn't appreciate his parents and he hasn't done it again. Sad. Roxy, I'm just going to go through all this quickly, okay? So stop me if you have anything to say. Roxy hugs Rudy and then tells him
Don't
that
worry,
Paul
I
and
will,
Zenith
EliteAri.
were like a second family to her, and she wants to share the sadness with him. And then we had a really, really cool Rudy point of view shot where like Rudy has like, so Roxy has hugged Rudy's face, and we're seeing through her like hand or arms around his head, and it's like seeing the stump of his hand, and it's like, this is so cool. We love the directing this episode. It's awesome. Rudy gets up to walk away, and then Roxy pulls him down onto the bed and has sex with him, basically. For now, just leave everything to me. Crazy. Then they wake up the next day, and Rudy says he's feeling better. He asks Roxy what he should do now, and she says that he should face forward and treasure the family he has right in front of him. And then Rudy thanks her, and we get a really small, cool bit of animation, which is that Rudy puts a shirt on, or like a thing over his shirt or whatever, and he has to pull his ponytail from under the shirt, like pull it out. I'm like, oh, this is cool. A little detail here. We love it. Then they leave Rudy's room and run into Elinalise, who is surprised, and she says, Roxy, did you? ... And Roxy says she has to speak with Elinalise about something, and that he should go and see Lilia on his own. So yeah. Then, so that's all the Roxy stuff, which I think we've already talked about enough. Then we have the scene with Rudy going and checking in on Zenith and Lilia. So I guess we also never got your reaction last time, Bacon. So what do you think about what's happened with Zenith?
I was right.
Yeah.
What do I think?
I guess firstly, like, is it an emotional gut punch to you? Like, man, like...
Not at all.
Okay.
I felt very little. I'm sorry.
True based.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, yeah, there's not much Mushoku Tensei has, like, emotionally on me.
Just say you don't care about these characters, Bacon, you know? That's your classic phrase.
I mean, I'd be lying to say if I really did. But
that breaks my
that doesn't
heart,
mean I
Bacon.
dislike them. I'm sorry. I do care about your feelings, though, Ari. So I'm sorry that I made you feel that way.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, Mushoku Tensei sucks. No. What did I think about it?
Sure.
I think, I thought this. I think like how it's presented in the scene is like, oof. You're like, this is, and then it comes up with the title card parents. I was like, yes, I should have guessed that.
Yep.
I do. I guess for me, yeah, like this whole thing, like, I'm not sure if I really care that much about Zenith, but I am interested to see I mean, it's a very like I'm either on it. I'm not like, oh yeah, this is awful.
I guess with other things. It kind of sucks, like, right? Because go ahead, Bacon.
No, go for it, Carl.
Okay. I was gonna say, because I always used to think, oh, when we meet Zenith again, that'll be fun. You know, we only knew Zenith for a little while. Watching her interact with Rudy now and all the various other characters would be interesting.
Would be cool, yeah.
But that's not gonna happen now, huh? Because she's a big dumb Casca.
Personally, she's not like... I don't remember much about Casca, but I don't think it's the same as Casca, right? We can talk about this. Now, wait.
Oh, yeah, doesn't she just have amnesia or some shit? I don't know.
Yeah, we also got to talk about that. I had something I wanted to say. Oh, yeah, so
oh my god, she's a Rudy parallel like everybody else, and she has to start again in a new world, but she doesn't have her brain this time. Or maybe she does, but she can't manifest it or something. That would be crazy. She just had a trip with the man god.
That would be interesting. Oh no, I lost it again. What was I going to say? Something about Zenith. Oh yeah, so there's like a minor, like, when I think of this, obviously what can I say? When I read this for the first time, there's two elements that are hitting here emotionally, which I think it's fine. It's not going to land in the anime at all. The first is that a very small bit of emotion, which is that, oh my god, I remember that one time when Zenith was really happy that Rudy was going to be a magician like her. And she's like smiling and jumping up and down. She's really happy. And I'm like, oh, we're never going to see that Zenith again. She's for all intents and purposes, she's dead at this point. And I'm like, damn, that sucks. We're never going to see her again. Then there's the more kind of tragic element to all this, which is that everyone has wasted so much of their lives, like 6 years. Family has been broken up and everything. Paul has lost his life. Rudy is depressed again. And it was all worthless. So there was no point, right? They would have been much happier if they never tried to find Zenith. There is no redeeming aspect to what happened here. Everyone wasted their time, their lives. It was all a complete waste, basically. Zenith is not here, and she will never come back. And it's, yeah, that's kind of the emotional element. It's not much as, like, there is a little bit of like, oh my god, Zenith's character, I'm so sad. But most of it is kind of like, it's more of a Paul thing. It's like Paul wasted his life for nothing. And it's also like, it's just terrible. A bad situation. Nothing good came from this. That's more of the emotional stuff for me.
Yeah, I do. And yeah. When Carl said it sucks, I was actually, you know what? Yeah, it would be really cool to see Zenith interact with Rudy. Because you know, like,
True.
yeah, I'm always down to see more character interactions, more people, and this is why I think I also like the light novel because stuff is taken up. Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, now it's like, I guess I'm just wondering how will she be used and will that way be interesting? Because, I mean, I would think like in terms of Berserk, it's not been like really paid off.
It fucking hasn't, Bacon. You're telling them absolutely true.
Yeah, it's kind of like, do we spend like 200 chapters on this? Did we?
A little bit. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. It's like yeah. I guess for me, I don't want it to be like a Berserk situation where we have to. I mean, okay, maybe unless we end the whole series and she's just like that.
I think she's just gonna be a new character, right? I think that's kind of the tragedy name.
But I just don't want her to be like Casca, where she's. I don't know. Not that she isn't a character, because it does add to everybody around her and how they interact with her. But I don't really want to see another long-term Casca. And probably just because Casca hasn't been paid off, and I was so I'm still maybe a bit wary of that. But
I guess
that's a strong opinion.
Let's clarify for both me and people listening what exactly. Also, spoilers for Berserk. But what is Casca? What does that mean?
Leader, this is a crazy tale. So this one time, there's like a love triangle, right? And then there's like a rape and stuff. And then the lady loses her mind because of the situation.
And just made me hate that so much more than I should do. Oh my word.
Because I said love triangle, and that's another thing that Bacon doesn't like.
Love to hate. Actually, love triangles are right.
Love triangles are the best, obviously. We have one in Mushoku Tensei next episode. It's going to be crazy.
Right,
but then they're all going to get married. It's going to be sick. Now, she lost her mind, this Casca, because of some bad things that happened. Very bad things, EliteAri. She was traumatized. And then she walked around like a bit of a potato. Now, this is actually just retarded shit because Mura forgot to have an idea at the beginning and then he had to figure it out. Now, I'm making it more complicated and now nobody's going to understand if they don't understand. But you see, then we go on a mass... Well, then Guts kind of abandons her and doesn't think about her. And then he's told by the great Puck, greatest character in Berserk history, that, maybe we can get her mind back if we take her to the magic elven kingdom. And then so Guts heads out for the elven kingdom, and 15 years later he arrives, and then his two best girls, little Shurike and little Farnese. Farnese is not so little. She's not a lolly like Shurike. And the Mushoku Tensei fans just perked up. Now they want to read Berserk. Now, they go into her mind, and there's like some cool imagery and stuff, and then they put her back together, and then wazah! She's all back, and she's got her mind back, and but she doesn't entirely remember what happens. It's a little hazy. But EliteAri went up to the point that me and Bacon were complaining about yet. And then, oh my god, Casca's back. We're all crying. It's been 20 years, and it's the biggest payoff of all time. And she walks out, and she sees Guts, and they don't get to have a reunion because she starts freaking out from trauma and stuff. And then this fucking piece of shit loser fucking died, EliteAri, and now some other idiot's writing it, and we never got the reunion.
Okay. Thank you for all that context.
And so Mushoku Tensei's finished.
I was more
we're
curious.
All excited for them to come back.
I was more curious on what Casca's demeanor is like. What can she do? Like, what is her situation? You said that she. What is she? What's happening?
EliteAri.
Yeah, what does that mean? Like, okay, so she's in a coma, right? Is what you're saying? She doesn't look around.
She's like a retard.
No, she's not. She's
Go ahead, Bacon.
When I say potato, I kind of mean almost vegetative state, but I don't think that's quite correct because that would be more far gone.
She acts like a
she has lost her mind and she is unable to speak. She doesn't communicate well. She kind of just does her own thing. Like she doesn't have a concept of other minds around her.
She can't bathe herself.
She is severely, she's in. It's not that she's like mentally retarded, like Carl's saying. Like she is more far gone than that. She is. Basically like a 1-year-old child that you having to take care of constantly. I don't know where Zenith is because they say her memory's gone, but she doesn't seem like she like is her brain functioning? I don't know that. Can she just not talk because she's forgotten the language, or does she she doesn't seem like she is there. Yeah, go for it.
I think she's just a baby now, and it's literally going to be like in 5 years she's going to be like a 5-year-old, and then in 10 years and she's just going to be a whole new person. And it's like reincarnation, but a different thingy.
No,
I don't think we're ever I think EliteAri's... Now, EliteAri has been reiterating it, and he usually doesn't like to spoil things, so either he's misleading us, Bacon, but he has said multiple times that, like, Zenith's not coming back, so I think that's probably what it is. It's gonna be sad when those dumb fucking kids see it. Rudy doesn't give a fuck, and nobody else around here. Lilia might, but who cares? But these kids are gonna be pretty sad.
Oh, that's true.
Well, I guess Norn.
That is Norn's mum.
And they're fucking it's dead, bro.
Yep.
Dead
Interesting. I guess to clarify here, so it is a little bit of bad wording in the anime, but we'll stick to the anime. So Lilia said, okay, wait, let's do the whole context here. So Lilia is feeding Zenith with a spoon while Zenith isn't even closing her mouth and like the liquid is just dripping out and everything. Rudy apologizes to Lilia for not being there. And Lilia says that Zenith doesn't remember anything, but physically, surprisingly, she's very well. And Rudy interprets this as Zenith having lost her memory, but not being mentally dead. So I guess that's really how it's phrased here. And then in my note, I said, this is terrible wording, but it will be clarified, obviously, as we see more Zenith. But in the light novel, Lilia says that Zenith can... Yeah, there is a lot more description here, but, there's always more description in the light novel. She says that Zenith can do rudimentary things like eating and changing after Lilia has showed her how to do it. But in this moment, instead of Rudy pointing out memories or whatever, Rudy basically is very relieved because he thought up until this point that she was basically comatose. Like there was no brain at all. She was just a husk basically. So he's just kind of relieved that she actually can still physically do things, But yeah, anyway. Then Elinalise...
Did anybody else see the great tweets where there was a funny one where somebody talked about how much they wanted to fuck Potato Zenith? And then there was a bunch of people
I think I did see that.
quote tweeting it saying, "That's crazy on God, man."
Yeah,
And they
I
say, "Hold up, is Zenith looking kind of breedable right now?" I saw it.
Yep, that's crazy. That's something that
Now
Miller
Casca, when she was a potato, everybody had about 15,000 fucking bath scenes with fucking Farnice, and that gives you some what do you call it when you've got a conscience but also a erection.
If you say so, Kyle. Okay.
Elinalise. You feel bad.
Elinalise thinks that Zenith is a lost cause who will never recover. And Lilia says that she will care now that Paul is dead. So she's going to be in charge of Zenith, basically. But yeah, you said Bacon. You interesting thought there?
I forgot about that.
Yeah, Elinalise seems to have a lot of opinions on this. She's
like, yeah, finally, that bitch got what she deserved.
It could be. Bacon was implying some backstory between Paul and so then at the end of this scene, Lilia asks for permission to speak impolitely and basically tells Rudius, you have your own duty to worry about. You need to go look after your family, okay? I'll look after Zenith. You go look after the actual family, okay? And then Rudy is like, okay, let's go home. So crazy. A Lilia and Rudy scene. Can you believe it, guys? My goodness. Then we get the big montage of them traveling back to the teleportation circle. And this is the best scene, like I said before. Okay, so firstly, when I'm watching this, actually, let's go back a little bit. When I'm reading this light novel, volume 12, which has an amazing cover, okay, don't look it up though, I'll show you later. I'm very sad at this moment. I'm just like crying and I'm inconsolable at this point because I'm like, oh my god, Paul's dead, everything, it was all worthless and Zenith's gone and oh my god, it's so sad, Rude's depressed and he hasn't grown and oh my god, it's so terrible, and I'm crying. When I'm watching the anime, I'm like, oh, okay, they adapted this okay, and I'm not really feeling anything. But then they do this montage, and they use the same music as when Rudy initially committed to Norn, when Norn had like fallen over outside the house, and she's like, I'm counting on you, big brother, and he's like, I'm gonna save our family, and I'm like, oh my god, it's so sad. They're using the same music, and now it's like depressing because Rudy didn't do anything, and he is gonna have to go face Norn now, and it's gonna be so sad, and oh my god. So this is the actual part of the episode that did get me emotionally, and I actually, believe it or not, Mushoku Tensei did it. I actually teared up crazy. So this was the highlight of the episode. Might be the highlight of the season. I guess we'll see where this goes. I love this montage scene, basically. So yeah.
There's no music in this show, I don't believe it. Except for that great OP.
True, which they didn't play this episode for. And I guess some people were speculating, because of the time, they want to squeeze as much in as they can. But that's not true, because they also had an ending. So I don't know. I guess it was more of a director, like, tone-based thing, where it's like you don't want to have that upbeat opening when now Paul's dead and, like, the fight's over, and it's like, it's probably bad time to put this in, So yeah.
I was going to say, didn't they not have an opening for that one episode you said they were paralleling in season 1 EliteAri, but they didn't have any openings in season 1. So look, it looks funny now.
Indeed. So now there's...
EliteAri, don't say anything really important for the next minute while I pee.
Excellent. So, Bacon, I'm going to go over these 5 points that I have, which are, my favorite details from this montage, okay? Number 1, I love when Rudy collapses in the desert and Roxy has to pick him up. I'm like, this is great. But Rudy's so weak at this point. We love it. I don't
that's
remember which.
interesting. That's something I didn't really clock at all, which was how weak it was. I guess I'm just not super knowledgeable on, like, super
He had lines
cognizant
on his
of-
face, Bacon.
I know the lines, of course, but I was like, I didn't realize he was super skinny or something like that. I was just like,
Yeah. But then again, you told me that Paul didn't look skinny either, and that was like the whole point. He's like so small and skinny now. Oh my god.
Yeah, I didn't see that. Yeah,
Crazy.
That was my bad.
All right. Next detail of this montage is that they fight these blue dinosaur-looking things. And then I thought back to that one time we were talking about when they arrived at they were traveling to get here in the desert, and one of you didn't remember that there were scorpions or something. Was that you or Kyle?
Probably Kyle.
Yeah, it sounds like a Kyle thing. All right. Then we also get some really cool stuff that I don't think we've seen yet, which is that Shiera uses barrier magic to protect Lilia and Zenith while they're fighting the dinosaur things. And I was like, this is so sick. We never see barrier magic. This is great. So yeah, we love it. Then we see that they... also, when we're seeing the barrier, we see that they have a giant armadillo with them. And it's carrying the cart across the desert. I'm like, this is cool. This is like a little world building stuff where they've obviously...
Yeah.
We do get details on this where they're... This is some cute stuff where Rudy is basically, when he's teleporting, he's thinking about what he has to do with this armadillo now that they bought it. Like, do they just leave it in the middle of the desert now that they're going to teleport away? Like, do they take it with them and it'll like die in the cold on the other side? Like, yeah. It's cute. I like this. I'm glad they showed the armadillo here. Then,
I don't remember any armadillos.
Do you remember the blue dinosaur things they fought?
I watched this episode a week ago.
Classic Kyle. I knew it. Just like the scorpion all over again. So, Rudy creates a tent with earth magic. That was really cool. Anyway, we love this montage. That's the takeaway here. Cool stuff. Oh boy. Now we get the Rudy and Roxy talk by the campfire. So, should I again rush through this
like
and you guys cut me off?
Of each other earlier. So cute. Oh my god, uwu.
Yep. We love it. Rudy internally admits that he loves Roxy. He says, I'll be blunt, I love Roxy. Not quite in the same way as I love Sylphie, but I couldn't say which one I love more. So I'm wavering. I love Sylphie and I love Roxy too, but I promised Sylphie I'd stay faithful. I can't betray that. And
But he already did.
I guess the interesting thing is just an anime thing. When he's having this internal monologue, he's also visually, he's almost about to put his hand on like Roxy's waist, but he's hesitating, and in the end he decides not to do it. I'm like, this is cool. You know, we got visuals accompanying these monologues. We love it. Very good directed episode. We love it. Rudy tells
Isn't
Roxy...
this where she reveals that... Oh, okay, never mind. You get into it.
Yeah, Rudy tells Roxy that he is married and has children on the way, as a child on the way, sorry. So romance isn't possible. Roxy reveals here that she's known ever since Paul died. Elinalise told her, and when everyone was worried about him. She says that Rudy shouldn't blame himself because she took advantage of him when he was down. She knows he would never want to be with someone like her. She says that she will only be his left hand while they make the journey home. When he gets home, he should save his care for his wife. So, yeah. Any thoughts on this stuff, guys? This is the big reveal Roxy knew all along. Oh my gosh.
Epic, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was actually quite cool. Something about as Roxy's self-deprecation is something I'm like, I don't want to say cringe because that feels way too strong, but I'm just like, wow, she really does hate herself. And I guess for me, it's like, I don't understand why at all, but it's understandable. Like, there's a lot of self-hatred, which I think is...
It's because of your favorite episode from season 1, which is talking about how she always felt like an outsider and no one loved her because of the way that she couldn't communicate with everyone growing up. And then she went out, and now everyone just sees her as a kid. And it's like, damn, this sucks. It's like the whole thing. Roxy, come on. You hate Roxy?
I know.
All right.
It is stupid because she's pretty. It breaks the whole thing.
Sure.
It does?
It's not that... It's just like, it's so much self-deprecation that I'm just like, oh, wow. Like, this is... Yeah, you need a therapist.
Yeah.
Kind of vibe. But, yeah.
All right.
Sex is therapy, Bacon. We learned that this episode.
Yeah, true.
Oh, that is true. Cure depression. That's
Rudy.
what Roxy should advertise.
Okay. Thanks, Bacon. Rudy says that he wants to repay her somehow, and Roxy asks if he could listen to her excuse. So she says that she fell in love at first sight with the person who saved her from the labyrinth. They were everything she ever wanted. Afterward, she couldn't stop looking at his face but wouldn't look at him in his eyes because she was embarrassed because she thought it was hopeless. She says Elinalise and Geese both said that Rudy would recover on his own, but Roxy thought about little Rudy in Buena Village, who was, afraid to leave the village.
Cool.
and realize that, you know, obviously he needs help here. She says that she'd heard that he had loved, she heard that he had someone he loved, and she knew that if she was here, she would help pick Rudy up, but she wasn't here, so someone had to help him. So this is basically Roxy, instead of having that whole scene early on where we get the scene with the Elinalise geese, Roxy, Talhand, all them explaining this, we get the reveal here, and we also see it from Roxy's perspective, which I think is more interesting. I do like this change. So Elinalise and Geese wanted to leave him alone, and Lilia was too busy with Zenith, so she decided that she had to be the one to do it. What choice did she have, basically? So she's trying to give her excuse here, which is what she framed to Rudy. And she tells him that she loves him and cries about how she's awful for what she's done. Yeah. Now, one thing to say, which I don't remember if we brought up previously, which is the line... they foreshadowed this earlier on. When I say foreshadowed, they like spoiled it, but like made it a cheeky thing for like people who know what's happening. Which is when, I think it's when Roxy is, you remember when they're in that village in the Demon Continent and Roxy is, sees Rudyard and they're like almost in a cross paths with Rudy, and then they just like go separate ways.
Yeah.
At the end of that, there is like a whole line which Roxy is describing basically everything that happens here, where she's like, "Oh, my dream is one day I'll be in a labyrinth and someone will save me and we'll fall in love and blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Oh,
that's quite funny."
Yeah, it is. And it was really funny when I think me and Kyle talked about it, and I think Kyle even brought it up. Like, I should go back and listen to see what Kyle said at that point, but it was kind of funny.
I definitely predicted it, bro.
You probably, I imagine you were probably like, "This is exactly what's going to happen. The author's telling us right here," and I was like, "Oh man, I can't say anything." But anyway, so.
You know, I'm 10 from 10, I think, in predictions.
Very true.
Yeah, apart from predictions which you definitely didn't make because they didn't happen.
That's very true.
I did, EliteAri. I did.
In response, Rudy begins to suggest something. He says, "At least while we're on this journey," and then ... But then he internally cuts himself off by saying, "What good will that do? It doesn't solve anything." And then Roxy moves his hand away and says, "He doesn't need to do anything." So I like this. I like the fact that because this is I love talking about my light novel. Okay, this is a good change they made to the light novel, which is that in the light novel, Rudy puts out his whole thought here. He says that like, at least while we're on this journey, we can like pretend that we're like lovers or something, and we can all be happy, and just for the extent of this journey. And then I think he like has an internal monologue talking about how this isn't going to solve anything, and what's the point, and this is a bad idea. And then Roxy like says, "You don't need to do anything." I prefer in the anime here where it's like Rudy initially starts the thought and he stops it by saying like, "At least while we're on this journey," and then we're left to like fill in what he was going to say, and he internally cuts himself off by saying like, "What good will that do?" I like it. I prefer this kind of way of doing it. So good job to the anime again.
I do think the emotional conflict, not as it's represented in Rudy, but as it's sort of representative emotional conflict. What a great statement. I think it is handled very well here. I do think, like, I was totally in Rudy's head the whole step, which kind of removes Rudy from the situation based. It makes the show way better. If it was just me, bro. And I was like, yeah, I totally, on the journey back, yep, let's be husband and wife, and then we'll figure it out later, and you keep pushing it down the hill until you realize it's spiraling into terribleness. And then, suddenly, they just come up with this little solution at the end, and it's like, revelatory. You're like, oh my god, this is perfect. They're gonna get married too. This is, everybody's happy, bro. And I was very, I don't know. It felt EliteAri, get ready for it. It felt very EliteAri, get ready for it. Jarkey Bacon, get ready. It felt very Mad Men. Oh my god, I was like, oh my god, this is exactly how Mad Men does climaxes. Cheating is good, and actually we will just have both in Lamau. But Mad Men will do this thing at the end of the series where the Office plotline will always just resolve itself, like, out of nowhere in, like, the back half of the last episode of the season, where it'll be like, oh, they've run out of money. And then some dude will just show up and give them money, and it'll be like, oh my god, we fucking solved it, crazy. That's not exactly how it happened, but it feels like this, where it's like, well, we're clearly spiraling down into bad. Like, oh, maybe just on this trip. And you would trick yourself into thinking that if you were actually in love with this girl and you're like, oh, we'll get back and she's on my side and maybe we'll lie, but we'll get away with it. And then I can have them both. And then it keeps spiraling. And then somebody else just comes in and has a solution. And it like ticks all the boxes kind of. But that's yet to be seen because, you know, Sophie's still got to react to this and stuff. But that sort of elation that comes with like a resolution. There's just moments in life where you're like, oh, there's no getting out of this. This is fucked. Everything's just got worse out of nowhere. Or this is fucked. And then a solution just does happen. And you're like, man, things always work out. Now, when things don't work out, you're always like, these never work out. Fuck life. but I felt it was accurately portrayed here. Go ahead, Jarkey Bacon.
So my worry is that in the anime here, it's like we won't get enough time in Sylphie's head to get like a nuanced.
She's gonna be
emotional
disappointed,
picture.
and then we're gonna cut away, and then they'll be like doing the dishes together and being like, "Oh, I guess you're okay," and that's all we're getting. I guarantee it.
But I feel like, well, that's what we get in the anime. But like, there's a whole thing where it's like, oh, there is a complexity to how their relationship is in the light novel, basically. So
there's like a whole point of view chapter.
good,
They just cut it out.
bag.
That'd be funny.
yeah, probably.
Okay, and also the bunch of the stuff you're saying, I guess Kyle, what you were going on your monologue there, we haven't even got to the thing that's been changed that would change everything you're just saying there. It's pretty funny. We'll get there. I'm curious if you guys are gonna know what I'm gonna say when I say it. Anyway, I made a tweet, last week, and it was to a scene we haven't talked about yet.
I pulled up and I deleted the tab. Oh man,
unbelievable. Don't worry, we still got one scene before that scene. Okay. No, maybe it actually is. No, this is the scene. This is the scene actually. So okay.
I'm gonna try and keep this spoiler free in case people haven't seen the app yet. But holy bleep, I can't swear on this show. I can't believe they changed Rudius's motivation for such a pivotal character decision from the LN. Whether it is better or worse is yet to be seen, but I'm truly shocked that they decided to change it. In case this is too vague, if you read the light novel, I'm talking about Elinalise's stuff by the campfire that was cut. Hence, Rudy was given way more agency and responsibility for his decision.
What a wise individual who tweeted that out. So, in the anime, okay, they teleport to the central continent, and everyone is blindfolded, and then Rudy has a fireside chat with Elinalise. So, in the actual anime, Elinalise talks about monogamy in the six-faced world. She says that Cliff is a devout worshipper of Millis, and followers of Millis are only allowed to take one wife, and they're meant to love for the entire life, basically.
Fucking Catholicism.
Indeed. It's strict, but she enjoys it now that she's on the receiving end. But she doesn't see anything wrong with loving more than one person at the same time. Then, Elinalise tells Rudy to marry Roxy. She can't stand seeing Roxy so sad and all because she reunited with Rudy at the wrong time. I guess this was kind of interesting that I forgot about, where it's like, if the only reason that Roxy and Rudy didn't really get together, well, I guess it depends. It's not quite this simple, because it is like the fact that he did save Roxy from a labyrinth, and that condition probably is pretty important to like her falling in love with him. But maybe it's not. Maybe other situations would have also made her fall in love with him. But the implication here is that like the only reason that Sylphie was chosen over Roxy was that Sylphie just happened to run into him earlier in his life. If it was instead Roxy in that position,
happened to run away.
Exactly, yeah, and Eris happened to run away and it didn't work out there. If Roxy had been in Eris' situation, or if Roxy had been in Sylphie's situation, or Sarah's situation, it could have just, it would have all worked out for Roxy. And it's sad that she just happened to be a little bit too late to run into Rudy. And that's kind of Elinalise's hang up here, that Roxy is so sad, all because of the bad timing of what's happening. So she wants Roxy to have at least a modest share of happiness, is her take here. We'll get through the scene and then I'll explain
also another.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh my god, Jarkey Bacon cover your ears. It's another descriptively real thing, EliteAri, where it's like, I feel like you're always like, oh, you're in a relationship, and then you have one thought about one other person, and you're like, man, if things had just gone a little differently, maybe. And you sort of, it's sort of a copium way, but it's also kind of a way to deal with it and get through it and not actually become a cheater. But yeah, I think that's kind of what it's like, oh, anything could have happened, bro. If I had just done this thing, and then maybe my whole life would be different, and maybe I would be with her instead. Crazy.
Yep. All right.
To quote a great anime made by a French studio for League of Legends, what could have been?
Wow.
Oh my god, that's the
So
sing song at
true.
the end. That's crazy.
It is the best scene in all of Arcane. We love it. Okay.
Remember when they're at the fucking table, bro? Crazy.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Bro, remember when the season 2 got announced and they said it's only going to be 6 hours of content? And I was like pogging off, but also sad that they're ending it. But
too bad the show's
yay and
fucking
sad.
mid. Tell him, EliteAri.
Amen. Don't worry, we got so many more seasons of Mushoku Tensei, at least 2 more, probably 3. Or probably 2.5, something like that. Anyway, Rudy says that he'd love to make both her and Sylphie happy if he could. Then he has an internal monologue about how he's being selfish. He's married Sylphie and has a kid, but he wants another woman too. He's chastised Paul in the past, but now he wants the same thing he did. So there are
good point.
there are parallels going on here between Rudy and Paul, which they did make very explicit in that one anime-only thing a few episodes ago, where he's like, I have
I got
swords.
2 swords,
and
bro.
Exactly. And I was like, this is a bit of a weird addition to the anime. But, yeah. Elinalise asks if he thinks Zenith became miserable after Paul married Lilia, and Rudy thinks back and says that she wasn't, but at first she cried. So interesting. And we get this cute animation of the 2 babies crying when Paul makes the funny face, and I was like, oh, is this funny? Elinalise says that she knows he can love Sylphie and Roxy equally. He's Paul's son, after all. And Rudy reflects on how he is genuine when he says that he loves them both, but he knows that Sylphie will think less of him after coming back with a lover, and Roxy might not want him to love anyone else. He's worried that if he says that he loves them both, they'll both leave him, and he'll end up alone again. So, interesting. Slightly selfish motivations here.
There is an interesting cognitive dissonance here where it's like, I feel like most people probably think that at some point, especially if they're torn between 2 people, like, but I actually do really like them both, I promise. And you kind of do believe it, and it might even be true, but it falls apart when you you apply, like, you inherently have a double standard where you're like, well, she can't have a boyfriend. What the fuck? No. Yeah. And that like holds monogamy together, I think, where it's like, well, I guess I'll settle for one as long as she settles for one, and we can both burden or unburden our insecurities together. But that's not what Rudius is doing, and these bitches ain't getting boyfriends. Because this is misogyny.
Well, there's multiple...
Well, maybe they like each other.
That could be
that's the total biggest cop-out of all time, Jarkey Bacon. That would make I would be on your side if that started happening. Oh my god, the 2 girls I fall in love with and the one I cheated on. Oh my god, they're just so lesbian for each other. This is perfect.
That is true.
Wait, I was going to say there's 2 things. Oh, what were you just saying? It was kind of interesting.
But maybe... Okay, Carl, I'll be fine with that I'll be fine with that as long as they don't show like the sex scenes, basically.
No, we got
that would indicate to me. Well, no, that would indicate to me that then it's not for the audience. It's like, oh, they genuinely outside of Rudy's like. It makes it feel more genuine to me, basically, where it's not fan servicey.
It probably also is audience perception, right? Because like the male audience is not going to be down. That just Rudius would be on all the cuck posters, even though the Sylphie will never be on the cuck posters, just because that's just how it be.
Actually, to be fair, recently I did watch the Challengers movie. Good movie. It's the one with Zendaya on the couch with the 2 boys.
You fucking spoil this goddamn movie, Jarkey Bacon. I'll kill you.
Okay, cool. When are you watching it?
Week, I think.
Okay,
Mr. R has it on his Plex. It's great. No, I can't watch it at the movies because I'm not New Zealand, silly. Though I kind of did say I would watch it in New Zealand. You're ruining everything for me, Jarkey Bacon. But go ahead, spoil it anyway.
No. Just saying, that was like a movie I watched recently where everybody was calling Tom,
Holland a cock, even though he's not in it. Yeah, because it's acting. Oh my god, I raged about that on stream one time. Don't worry, Bacon.
Yeah, I watched that ages ago. My media digest is so far behind. Like, I've not added all the stuff I've even watched in May. So
too busy to tweet this man. He's out there.
No, exactly.
He's
too
living a lie.
All right, guys. I wanted to say about the whole... We'll get... Obviously, we'll see how this story goes, but I think there's 2 elements to what Kyle is saying, or 2 possibilities. One is that you're saying that when... Your issue was that, oh my god, Rudy's gonna have these 2 wives, but they're not gonna have, like, other husbands, right? And I think there's 2 possibilities. One is that they're
too busy being mothers.
Yeah, in the character sense, you're saying. I mean, I don't know if you're saying this, but it could be that Rudy would get upset if they had 2 other husbands, and that would be like a character thing for Rudy. Or there's the meta sense.
Maybe interesting.
Yeah, or there's the meta sense that you're saying, which is that I'm just trying to clarify what you're saying. Are you saying that like it's going to be a thing where they're not allowed to have wives, or it'll be a bit like
they're never even going to bring it up once?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The other thing is that it's a meta thing where it's like they could have other husbands, but they're just in the meta sense, they're just not going to, if you know what I mean. I don't even know if that makes sense at this point. So I don't know, one of those things, I don't know what bothers Kyle, one of them would. Anyway, so continuing this Rudy Elinalise scene, we're getting to the end. Okay, we're going to talk about the change. So Rudy is basically, he's worried that he's going to end up alone if he tells them that he loves them both. And Rudy tells Elinalise that even if he loves them both, it doesn't mean they're going to be okay with that. And then Elinalise tells him to ask Roxy right now, and she goes and wakes her up. And then we have the scene afterwards, which we'll talk about. Now, the big change here, which for all I know, they could bring it up next episode, but I am going to say it here because I think we need to talk about it before the season finishes, is the motivation here for Rudy, basically at the end of this scene, the scene is pretty similar in the light novel. It plays out pretty similarly. And at the end,
she's already pregnant, bro. Crazy.
So after this, at the end of this, Rudy is like, I know that, like, he basically says all the same things, and he says, even with all this, I'm not gonna do it. Like, I am loyal to Sylphie. I'm not gonna cheat on her or anything. And he basically comes firmly on the side of I'm not gonna do this. Then Elinalise says, I didn't want to say this, but Roxy, she hasn't had her period this month. I didn't want to say it, but she's pregnant.
Oh, really? I forgot. I didn't even catch this. Oh my word.
They didn't say this.
This wasn't in the show. Mate.
Yeah, they did. This is only in the light novel. This is a big change because when Rudy now learns that Elinalise is saying that Roxy is pregnant, or implying it at least, he's like, okay, that's what makes him change his mind. Where he's like, up until this point, he was very firmly like, I'm not gonna cheat on Sylphie. I'm gonna not do this stuff with Roxy. When he learns that Roxy is pregnant, that's when he's like, I have to look after the kid, obviously. And obviously, to me,
they don't got no magical abortions.
Well, I have no idea. I don't think this has any.
Even Game of Thrones has magical abortions.
Even if they have magical abortions, maybe Rudy doesn't like abortions. Okay, so who knows? Maybe Roxy doesn't like abortions. But this is, in my opinion, I don't know why no one. I mean, there are some people who talk about this. More people are focused on the cut scene with Elinalise, Talahand, Roxy, like all them in the bar. I think that's far less important than the change in motivation here for Rudius, which is that he was very firmly against having cheating on Sylphie, but now he's okay with it, even without the mention of pregnancy. I think that's a very big change. Now, like I said in the tweet, this could be a very interesting change in that it could maybe be. I don't know where they're taking this. Basically, I have no idea. Maybe they could bring this scene up next episode or something.
Is this like this is just a mirror of Paul though, right? Because wasn't
It's a what?
Oh my word! This
a
is
mirror of Paul.
Oh, mirror of Paul. Okay, yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
The character that just died, Ari.
It's sorry. I don't even know. I said a mirror pool or something. Like, what's a pool?
A mirror pool.
Yeah. Go ahead, Bacon.
Anyway,
it is a mirror pool because
where not Zenith. Hang on, Lilia.
True, Lilia was pregnant.
Well, Lilia, basically, didn't she initiate with Paul?
She did. She did.
And so this is kind of like with Roxy initiating on Rudy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then they both like unintentionally became pregnant.
That is indeed.
So it's kind of like.
So did Roxy and Rudy only have sex once?
Yes, that is the implication. Yep.
Well, that's pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty funny.
But this pregnancy stuff has been cut, so I don't know what they'll say. If they'll bring it up next episode or.
Actually, this is true. Like when Sylphie was like, "Oh yeah, like my genes don't. I mean, I'm not fertile, but we know." The grey rat, the grey rat swimmers. They swim. They will find any egg they can. You know. So
I guess we'll have to see, because for all intents and purposes, in the canon of the anime, Roxy is there's nothing to hint that Roxy is pregnant at this point.
Do you think if we find Eris one day, she's gonna have like a 5-year-old little kid? That'd be hilarious.
That would be hilarious. That would be so funny.
Literally first timer every timer, you know?
Dude,
literally the worst luck of every man on the planet.
Dude, he has only but net. Only net. Just all swooshes. What was the rugby league analogy, Carl?
Nothing.
He only scores on the first touch. What?
Yeah.
Is that thing?
Tackle 0 tries every time, running 100 meters. Off the kickoff.
Exactly.
True.
Yes. Little grubbers.
Mm-hmm.
True.
Carl, do you have grubber kicks? You have grubber kicks, right?
Yeah,
we call them grubbers.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Nice.
All right.
Okay, Ari.
That's a massive change, EliteAri. We're all mad about it.
Thank you. I'm
yes. Ari, but this is important, rugby chat. If I was to tell you what a grubber kick was, what would you think that
what
type
do you
of kick?
Suspect?
A grubber
the one that goes far in the air, or what is?
I am assuming to me a grubber kick is like.
What's a grub do?
This can't be the case, but I'm imagining like I don't know how to even describe this. You're still running toward hitting the ball, but you're like making really tiny steps when you're running towards it, and then you're like kicking it really far.
No.
Okay.
It just means
it's like
a
shuffle
kind of goes along the ground.
Oh, yeah. That's not what I was thinking.
Like a grub, it goes along the ground.
You kind of you kick it and it like rolls along the ground, and then hopefully when you're running along after it, because the ball is like odd shaped, it'll like bounce up.
Bounce up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So instead of like a little chip over
A bomb
or a little
or a
long
chip,
or a bomb.
true.
Mm-hmm.
Spiral bomb? Do you have spiral bombs in League?
Spiral bomb, torpedo bomb.
Ooh,
Sure, there's others.
that's when they
think a
kick the ball in
torpedo
such a way
bomb
where it spins
spirals
and like
the
it kind
ball,
of makes a
so
bit
it's
of a
harder to
knuckle ball.
catch.
Yeah,
All right, thank you guys. This is great.
there you go.
Battery's
This is
on
the
fire,
most
by the way.
sport that Mushoku Tensei
Yeah.
fans have
We're
heard
almost
about in a
done.
long time.
True.
Close-
Bunch of
close to the
losers.
outside
I have a
they've ever
funny. I have a funny thing. I have a funny thing to say, EliteAri.
Yes, go ahead.
Do you think in a magical society where you could like abort something by doing a magical spell on it, do you think forced abortions would be a massive thing? You know they would be.
Probably, yeah.
This dude finds out this bitch is pregnant. He's going to be over there with his magic, and you know, in real life, it's very hard to force.
Let
an
me
abortion.
show you.
Got to tie him up, get a doctor and stuff. That's crazy. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Rudy should invest in this. I think.
Let me show you a magic trick. Which card? You have to guess the card, and if
Yes.
they don't, the abortion goes through. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Then
Disturbed
before I
magic,
make
I think they call
The
it.
classic joke of fetus deletus. What
Oh.
a classic.
How could you say that, Bacon? Oh my goodness.
We're all pro-life.
No, that's not true.
I'm a pro at life.
Amen.
I win at life.
Just
Am
like
I
Rudy.
right, fellas?
Mhm.
No, not at all. He failed his first life.
Exactly. But now he gets a second
True.
chance, and now he's a pro, right? This is all your whole
Yeah.
argument, Bacon.
Well, he's trying to.
Okay.
He's trying to. He's
Yeah.
trying.
Yeah, he is.
We're cheering him on. We want him to do well.
So, guys, a massive change in Rudy's characterization. He has more agency. He actually made this decision without his hand being forced. It's kind of interesting that they did this. I'm on the edge of my seat for 5 hours from now when we get the answer for next episode. What's going to happen? So Elinalise, I know we did that already. Elinalise tells him to ask Roxy now, and she goes and wakes her up. So Rudy, this is the final scene now. So Rudy doesn't quite know how to ask Roxy. He starts off by saying that her teachings have saved him countless times, but he already has a wife, and she took his last name, Grey Rat. But then he realizes that he's not quite saying what he wants to say, but then he has this internal monologue once again. He's like, I think it's better to be a scumbag than looking back and thinking that I should have said something more. So he goes ahead and he says it. He says, would you want to change your name to Roxy Grey Rat? And then he's like, I love you. I'm like, okay. So Roxy says that she is grateful to hear that, and but he needs to get his wife's approval, and he can ask again after he has it. And then we close the episode with Rudy talking to Paul Sword and saying, what do you know? We're the same. Next episode, Succession. What a title. Oh my goodness. Any thoughts on this final
What a
stuff?
good
Roxy says no. Roxy's like, no, we're waiting. Right? We're going to Sylvie's approval.
Yeah, well done on her.
How the fuck are they gonna do that, Bacon?
What?
Like she's probably gonna say no initially at least, and then they're just gonna be like, "What if instead it's like Roxy says,
Dude, if
well, guess
Sophie
what,
said
bitch, I'm
no."
pregnant."
Dude, imagine if Sophie said no and then Roxy just it was like, oh, and then walks off in the distance. And
That's
just
what you
leaves.
call a full abortion, killing both of them.
Mm,
I guess it's a forced abortion in real life, huh? Just kill her.
that would work.
No magic
Yeah.
required.
That would
I'll keep that
work.
in mind.
Oh my word.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. So let me make a revision. I think because I hadn't actually watched this episode in a long time, so I hadn't actually really thought about it. But I think initially it hit the initial ick. But
You talked him
Okay,
out
so-
of it, EliteAri. Congratulations.
a little bit. No,
Oh, hell yeah.
I do remember all these points actually. I do remember them. It was interesting, and I do think the key thing here, which I feel like definitely Roxy has a lot of agency and a lot of say. If this makes sense, like it feels like she is definitely like a well-rounded and complete character in this situation, and making more smart, more mature judgments. But yeah, it's still it's still a bit of a Mushoku Tensei. Like, oh, here we go again. But it's as I've gone this far in Mushoku Tensei, it's not going to stop me. So
Bacon, you've mended my heart. Okay, thank you. This
there
is
we
great.
go.
I'm glad to hear this.
Oh my
Friendship
god, they just
restored.
love each other so much. How about they get
Yeah.
married, chat?
Oh, I can't
Yeah.
believe it.
Very true. So, guys, any predictions for what? Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it's 4.5 hours from now, something like that. No, wait, 6.5 hours or something. Next episode.
It's gonna be
What's
so
gonna
cool
happen?
when fucking
Finale.
Eris is already at the
Should we
thingy.
just
It's gonna be
record
so
it?
sick.
This is
Should
the
we just
final
record another one
episode.
later today?
True, we should. Yeah, I'd do it, but
Maybe.
Carl, what time? What time?
I
It
mean,
airs at
this
4:30,
episode comes
right?
out at
Or
like
whatever,
1
6
a.m.,
hours.
right?
1:30
I gotta be
a.m.
up
for
at like
us.
2 tomorrow. So,
2? Yeah, you got plenty of time, my guy.
but I'm also supposed to get a video uploaded. But that's not
Alright.
gonna happen. Whatever, we could do it.
All right.
That is actually hilarious. We give the fans. Well, is this the final episode of the season?
It is the final episode of
It
the
is.
season. Yeah.
Dude, we give the fans what they want. We give them the double dipper.
Oh, now they're gonna be angry
I'm
if it
down,
doesn't
boys.
happen. But yeah, we'll try.
Yeah.
I would be happy. We'll talk about this after the recording. But
Oh, this means I
Yeah.
can't make my Mushoku Tensei video. I was editing the
shame.
script. I was editing the script.
I'm sure you were making.
Save
I'm
it for
sure you were.
next season, Bacon. Save it for next season.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any last minute predictions? I guess
I don't know. Sylvie's gonna say yes.
it's a bold prediction.
Yeah. She will say yes by the end of the episode.
All
That's my
right.
prediction.
Fantastic.
She won't say yes straight away, though.
But oh my god, Eris is definitely not in this season of EliteAri. What if she's just at the fucking house?
Dude, what if she turns up at the end? That's
we
gonna
haven't
be the
been back
post-credit
in a
scene.
while.
She turns
And
up with the kid.
Ghislaine gets the news that Paul's dead too, because she's there too, and the little kid.
Well, the whole
That's
party.
scary.
That's what I care about.
The whole party is coming back except for Ghislaine, and I guess Paul,
So-
who's dead now.
I hate it so much. But every time people say Ghislaine, I keep on thinking of the Jeffrey Epstein lady.
True.
And I'm just
Yeah.
like, I can't. That's the only other time I've heard that name used. So sad because I actually knew about this Ghislaine before Jeffrey Epstein. Ghislaine Maxwell. Shout out to my.
Thanks, Bacon. That's great.
I can't
Alright.
cut my mic.
Well, in my mind, I read this. Firstly, I listened to this anime in Japanese, so I had no idea what they were saying. I was just reading the name Ghislaine from the subtitles, and then I listened to an audiobook, and the audiobook would tell me her name is Ghislaine. And I was like, okay, I guess her name is Ghislaine, and I read that for how many volumes that she's in the story for. Yeah, and then here I am calling it Ghislaine again because I think that's how it's meant to be pronounced, but crazy.
Ghislaine.
Yep.
Ugh.
Yep, it is crazy. That's just
like
how the
somebody
AI did
calling
it.
Wankadale.
All right, Bacon.
Is
Let
Carl
me
gone?
think. Is there any? No, Kai. I think.
No.
Kai's still here. Is there anything
No,
else
okay.
I need to ask? What else are ongoing plot threads? You know what? I'm not even going to bring it up. There is something I could bring up, but I'm sure they'll address it in the episode, and we'll talk about it next time. Okay. That's
We'll
it.
talk about it. See you in a couple hours.
Indeed.
What if the anime aborted the baby? It
Who knows?
could.
Maybe there is no baby.
Ooh,
Maybe it was
the
all a lie.
ultimate abortion.
Maybe Elinalise made it up. Wouldn't that be interesting?
Alive?
True.
Oh.
And also, that is a pronunciation. She was meant to be Elinalise, okay? And one day it'll be a plot thing, and we're going to be bothered by it, but not yet. Anyway, thanks for coming. See you next time, guys.
Next Tuesday.